morning to all of you, and I welcome to all of you for this new session of our Museums Heritage in India course. Today is the session of Museums in Tamil Nadu. आप सभी का मैं यहाँ पर स्वागत करता हूँ और आपके साथ साथ हमारे आज के सेशन की जो व्याख्याता है आर्किटेक्ट एम शांतिनी मैडम, मैं उनका भी यहाँ पर स्वागत करता हूँ। पहले मैं थोड़ा सा उनके बारे में परिचय यहाँ पर देना चाहूंगा। शी इज एन एकेडमिक एंथुसियास्ट, ग्रेजुएटेड फ्रॉम Tyagaraja Nagar College of Engineering, Madurai, and in 2003 with Bachelor of Architecture. Then she practiced the architecture for 4 years with reputed architects in Chennai and in Hyderabad. In 2008, stepped into academics and completed Masters of Architecture in Architectural Design as specialization. Have completed a decade and more as an academician in various architecture schools across Chennai. Currently associated with SRM School of Environment, Architecture and Design as a full-time professor. Have presented and published papers in various national and international conferences. In 2019, have ideated Kalam and Award for Ideas, Kalam and Architectural Research Forum for exchanging dialogues in the field of architecture, urbanism, and other related spheres. I most welcome to Shanthini madam here. हमने आपने लास्ट में जो लिखा है एपीजे अब्दुल कलाम साहब के बारे में और आपने जो उसके बारे में वर्क किया है, हमारे यहाँ पर जब कलाम साहब ने विजिट किया था तब पूरा दिन हमें उनके साथ रहने का मौका मिला था और हमारे यहाँ से जाने के बाद एपीजे अब्दुल कलाम साहब ने जो लेटर हमें लिखा था वो आज भी हमारे पास है और हमारे संग्रहालय के बारे में उन्होंने उस समय लिखा था कि दिस म्यूजियम विल बिकम आइडियल, दीप स्तंभ बनेगा, ये आने वाली जनरेशन के लिए एक दीप स्तंभ बनेगा, ऐसा उन्होंने अपने लेटर में हमें लिखा था। सो ये बड़ी खुशी की बात है कि आपने भी इसी क्षेत्र में और इसी तरह से आप कार्य कर रही है। So I most welcome to you and I request to you for to please start out today's session. Please unmute yourself, madam. Shanthini madam, please unmute to yourself.
Am I audible, sir?
Yes, yeah.
Yeah. Good morning to one and all present here. And very thanks to sir for inviting me for this forum and sharing my ideas on museums in Tamil Nadu. So without any delay, let me start into the presentation first. So obviously, we have come across lots of things about museum for the past 11 days, how the word actually started, what is the role of a museum in preserving local culture. All those things are fine. I hope we all know the background and we understand the different cultural backgrounds. Museum is the only place where people acquire perfection in life, and it is through the instructed visits to the museum we become increasingly progressive in our countries. I hope museum has to take on to the second stage into the future, and then we have to actually see how we have to recognize museum, especially with historical and cultural objects which impart wholesome education at all levels. Okay, how did this idea of museum came into India, and what is that 42nd Amendment of Indian Constitution say about? There are around 10 fundamental duties which this 42nd Amendment of Indian Constitution talk about, in which 3 are ideally talking about people's concern for their past, present, and future environment. They are to value and preserve the rich heritage of our composite culture, to protect and improve the natural environment, including forests, lakes, rivers, and wildlife, and to have a compassion for living creatures, to develop the scientific temper, humanism, and spirit of inquiry and reform. Museums are the competent enough to help in fulfilling all the above goals. This is why we have to take museum as an important thing in our day-to-day activity. And we know that there are few reasons why museums are so essential in cultural preservation, because they document our daily life, they educate others on local culture. Sitting here in Chennai, I can actually learn about what was the culture of Odisha and how Odishan museums are there, and different alternative perspectives in history. They connect those of different backgrounds. Now, museums in Tamil Nadu. So I just want to give a small introduction about Tamil Nadu. Tamil Nadu is actually located in tip of peninsular India. It has an unbroken history commencing from Paleolithic period and was later ruled by various dynasties. Tamil is the only language in whole world which got a royal patronage for many centuries. Tamil Nadu became an epicenter for all art forms. Geography of Tamil country is inherited with rich species of flora and fauna. Hence, the second largest and the oldest museum emerged in Madras Presidency in the year 1851. There are adding to that, there are lots of other district museums. Nearly 20 districts are having district museums, which is functioning now, in Pudukkottai, Salem, Madurai, Trichy, Velur, Erode, Kadalur, Ooty, Coimbatore, Kanyakumari, Krishnagiri, Tirunelveli, Shivagangai, Tiruvarur, Palani, Nagapatnam, Kanjipuram, Ramanathapuram, Karur, and Virudhunagar. So today I'm planning to take you on a tour from Chennai. We will start from Chennai. There are three museums which I have identified to discuss today in Chennai. Then we will be traveling on the East Coast Road, ECR, and we will reach Mahabalipuram. So in Mahabalipuram, we have two other museums which I have identified. And on Nagapatnam district near Kadalur, we have this Tranquebar Museum, which is a maritime museum. Then we will move along to the Tanjore. Tanjore has this Royal Palace Museum, which is housing Saraswati Mahal. Many of you would have known about that. And then we will move on to Madurai. Madurai has the Gandhi Memorial Museum. And then nearby Madurai, we have Kodaikanal, which is having this Shembaganur Museum. And then we will move on to Coimbatore, where Coimbatore we have two museums, which is one is the Gas Forest Museum, other one is an G.T. Naidu Scar Museum. Then if time permits, I will take you through Trichy and Velur, where those are almost similar to the museums which we are going to look on. The first museum which we are going to see is Government Museum, Chennai. It is located in a very important place, Egmore, which is the railway station area. And then you have Pantheon Road, which is the main road which is actually accessing this particular building. It is established in 1851. It is popularly known as Madras Museum. It is factually the second oldest museum of India after Kolkata's Indian Museum. And this museum is a treasure in itself because of the building. The building is having a British colonial architectural style and Indo-Saracenic architectural style. It is a rich repository of finest masterpieces of art, archaeology, anthropology, numismatics, and much more. This Madras Museum assures to lure one and all. So again, coming back to this museum in 1880s, before this Indian Treasure Trove Act in 1878, the museum artifacts were collected through the field collection. Like there were lots of gifts, there were lots of purchase, there were lots of exchanges with other museums, and that is how this museum started growing. After Indian Treasure Trove Act in 1878, which expedited heavy inflow of art objects such as bronze images, stone sculptures, coins actually came into this museum. Once this excavated artifacts of Adichanallur and Arikamedu, which is near Pondicherry, gave a new dimension to the museum in the field of anthropology. And after independence, we had Bronze Gallery, Gallery of Contemporary Arts, and Children's Museum, which were added to this particular old museum, and all these things were dedicated to the public. So this is the building which I'm talking about. It is having a lots of Indo-Saracenic architectural style and old British colonial architectural style. You can see from the red brick structure which is actually seen here. And it started in 1851. Moreover, one can find lots of exhibits from Buddhist ruins of Amaravati also. The key highlights over here is Bronze Gallery, which had sculptures from modern times to Pallava era dating back to 7th century. So this is the National Art Gallery, a treasure trove of itself. It has Raja Ravi Verma's painting, it has decorative art gallery, it has Tanjore painting, and it has Indian traditional art gallery also. And there are lots of miniature paintings which boast the works of Tanjore, Rajasthan, Deccan, and Kangra. As an architect, I cannot stop myself without speaking about this particular building. This particular building is an Indo-Saracenic architectural style. You can see the onions domes, you can see the pinnacles, and you can see the arches, and the facade treatment is done with lots of intricate designs. So this actually stands as an example of Indo-Saracenic architecture even now in Chennai. This particular building has come across in many of the movies, especially in Maniratnam movies with PC Sriram's lighting. So this is how the building is looking in the Google map. It's spread across 16.25 acres of land. This government museum also is counted as the largest museum in South Asia. It has 46 galleries and 5 sections. So this is the Pantheon Road, and this is the Casa Major Road, and this is Halls Road. So this is Halls Road, and this is the Pantheon Road, which has the main gate. As soon as you enter, you come across your Science Park on your left and your Contemporary Art Gallery, that is the National Gallery, on your right, which is actually on the Casa Major Road. And this is the main entry where you have an old library building, and this is the front building, the main building. And then you have children's library over, children's museum over here. This is the site plan, and this is the Halls Road. So this is the different sections which is available in the main building. You have archaeological section, zoology section, and botany section, geology, numismatics, and in main building. Whereas in front building you have anthropology, archaeology, and in bronze gallery you have archaeology. In the ground floor you have bronze gallery, and then in second floor you have Hindu bronzes gallery. And you have numismatic gallery, and you have chemical preservation gallery also. And in children's museum, you have lots of things like dolls gallery, civilization gallery, science gallery, transportation gallery, technology gallery, and kids corner. And National Art Gallery has Tanjore painting, decorative art painting, Indian traditional painting, and Ravi Verma's painting gallery. Contemporary Art Gallery has exposition of progress of industries and handicrafts of Tamil Nadu, and Raja Ravi Verma's portraits, and then British portraits, modern art gallery, the rock and the cave art gallery, and holographic galleries in the second floor. So this is again the closer look of this art gallery, and you have what actually has done is this has been renovated with the help of Public Works Department and ASI Heritage Committee with the expenditure of 11 crores, and nearly 200 unique displays of paintings and other artifacts are being preserved by ASI over here. So these are some of the exhibits which are prevailing there. You have starting from ethnology, folk art, copper plate grants, Hindu sculptures, and then you have British portraits, you have textile block galleries, and you have general geologies, amphibians, foreign animals, and lots of birds are preserved, coins, etc. Next, we move on to Chennai Rail Museum. This railway museum in Chennai has a rich rail heritage of India. It was opened to public in 16th April 2002 on the premises of Integral Coach Factory near Villivakam. It is of 6.25 acres of land, and it hosts both technical and heritage exhibits with sizable collection of steam engines belonging to various decades of British Raj. So one such is there in the picture on the left. And this particular museum has lots of vintage coaches such as Ooty trains, and then the older models which is being manufactured by North British Locomotive Company. And it also hosts lots of outdoor heritage exhibits and dating from 1800s. And there is a toy train which is actually an advantage for the children, which actually takes you around the premises and the playground. So this museum is a must visit by all the children, and it is a mostly visited museum by almost all schools in Chennai as an industrial visit. So you can see the toy train, people are actually going on that, and then you can actually see new exhibits also are planned, and then which is to be located in the second decade, and then you have a video about Neil Ball's token system, which was actually used for signaling between the trains, and a coach which is in which Gandhi has traveled. These are the main highlights of this Chennai Rail Museum. And this particular 1895 model of flower steam ploughing engine made by John Flower for agricultural purposes is also kept there. And you have 1860s double-decker coaches of some recognizable coaches, which is also displayed. And you have 40 different models of trains in this Chennai Rail Museum. Now we move on to Dakshinachitra Museum, a very close to my heart museum, which is actually a heritage museum, a project of Madras Craft Foundation, an NGO which was opened in 14th December 1996. This museum is located overlooking Bay of Bengal at Muthukadu, 25 kilometers down south of Chennai on East Coast Road towards Mahabalipuram. So this is the entrance of this particular this thing, and it is being designed by Laurie Baker Associates of Kerala. Now this Dakshinachitra has a collection of 18 authentic historical houses with contextual exhibitions in each house. Basically, these houses were bought and reconstructed at Dakshinachitra site, which was given demolition by their owners. So what these people have done is, whichever house has been allocated for demolition, they have bought that house, they have demolished that building in such a way that all these artifacts, these pillars, the stones, this even this Madras terrace roofing slabs are being preserved, and that has been thoughtfully reconstructed by artisans and sthapatis of the region from the houses which they have come from. So you can see this Tamilnadu house, which has a broad Thinnai structures, a semi-public space, and with columns. And you have a Kerala house with Mutram, and you have this Karnataka house, which is built with stones, and Andhra Pradesh house, which is actually having a lot of sloping roof, bricks, and stones. Dakshinachitra is quite close to my heart because of the art lab and the events and lots of competitions which is conducted there. Dakshinachira's art lab is collaborated with Nalanda Away in efforts to work with the children from underprivileged communities who face lots of economical and societal challenges. Dakshinachitra collaborated with Nalanda Away to create Dakshinachira's art lab. So this lab conducts a lots of residential camps for the communities that involves hands-on experience, workshops, and classes in house folk performers. They have their in-house folk performers. With them, they do all these activities. So these are some of the workshops which has been conducted in recent times. So these are very few which I have actually mentioned. We had wheel pottery, weaving, ceramic, seascape, murals, and then paper conservation workshops were handled. And this Dakshinachitra celebrates heritage through theatre, poetry, music, dance, storytelling, stand-up comedies, puppetry, panel discussions, talks, calligraphy, and Tamil graffiti workshops, along with quizzes, games, and even food. We move on to Mahabalipuram now from Chennai. So the first which we are going to see is India Seashell Museum, which is having a massive collection of 40,000 seashells over other countries also. This museum has a colorful and grand entrance, which has a octopus over it, and you have a conch over here. This is how it is actually looking, and then it is situated right in front of the beach. So you can see the octopus, which is actually welcoming you from above the entrance. This is being founded by Raja Muhammad, who was an enthusiast of collecting seashells when he was a very child. Obviously, all of us would have collected seashells, but this Raja Muhammad had that vibes in him, which made him collect nearly 40,000 seashells across 6,000 different species of seashells. He has collected it almost from all over the world, including Mexico, Australia, Thailand, Vietnam, and Indonesia. There are 4 galleries in the museum where you will be learning very, very new things and new informations through the seashells which are on the display. So this museum is having 1 acre of land, and it has 3 sections. The first section is housing lots of various rare and unique seashells. So you can see lots of seashells which is actually put up, and then you have an aquarium building where you have a small market named Maya Bazaar, where you can actually get pearls and elegant jewelries and other fascinating artifacts made of seashells. Moving on to the last building is a restaurant, which will satisfy your hunger after the sightseeing tour of your museum. So there are also fascinating items on display, like a plane and a car, a ship, and the train, which is actually made of oyster shells, and they are also exhibited, and you have to actually appreciate the skills of the creator. You have a very interesting thing which is happening in Gallery 3. This fascinating section displays the story of pearl formation. It explains the 3 important stages of formation of a pearl, and you can actually see those which are displayed. There are beautiful, raw, unpolished pearls on the display in this section. Very real pearls, some are inside the shell itself. Those are also displayed here. These are some of the exhibits. Very few exhibits I have actually taken. You actually can go and find out in the net. There are lots of photographs where the visitors have posted themselves. This is one Brett Maria, which is a huge piece of shell, and this is only 4 pieces which are found till now, and 1 such piece is there in this Mahabalipuram, India Seashell Museum. Next, we move on to Sculpture Museum at Mahabalipuram. This Sculpture Museum at Mahabalipuram has 3,000 plus odd sculptures of Hindu mythology characters and historical importance, and it says lots of tales of ancient days. This particular section has ancient artist who's making varied materials like metal, wood, cement, and brass. And other than that, you have a larger chunk of this exhibits of Pallava architecture itself, which is not there in that particular site, which has moved on to this Sculpture Museum at Mahabalipuram. So you can see this various sculptures. You have lots of other paintings also on the display, which are impeccable paintings, and it's equally captivating with the historical and cultural too. You have Buddhist sculptures and images as well. So these are some of the sculpture and exhibits which are there in the Sculpture Museum of Mahabalipuram. So this particular piece is actually a musical pillar kind of thing, which is available in many of the Dravidian temples. One is there in Meenakshi Amman temple also. It makes music, it creates music when you strike it off. A miniature is actually made there. And now we move on to Nagapattinam district on the same East Coast Road. We come to Maritime Museum, Tranquebar. Tranquebar is a maritime museum which is located in Tarangambadi of Nagapattinam district and Coromandel coast. It is just situated opposite to Danish fort. This museum houses of Tarangambadi, and there are lots of books for sales. And you can actually see a short clip of the history of this coastal town over there. It is actually run over and it houses a boat specimen here, which is actually very unique in Coromandel Coast. This is that particular boat which I'm talking about. And you have lots of preserved seashells and then model boats and utensils, costumes, paintings, and little more than what they have used in Danes. You also have a small Indian stamp collection. The church, the museum, and the fort is well maintained by a college which is there. Now we move on to Tanjore. We have come to Tanjore now. You have Tanjore Palace Museum Complex, which is just 1 kilometer away from the great Bragadishwara brick temple. It dates back to 14th century and it is being built by Nayaks and Marathas. The Maratha royal family still resides there in this palace. This complex contains a palace, a Rajaraja Chola art gallery, a very popular Saraswati Mahal library, and a bell tower. You have 7 different sections of the palace which can be visited there, and art gallery, Saraswati Mahal library, museum, along with Maratha Darbar Hall, bell tower, and Sharjah Madi. The main entrance is on the north of the East Main Street. What you are seeing here is your bell tower, and this is your entrance to the Darbar Hall. So this is the Darbar Hall, an arts and bronze gallery of Royal Palace Museum, Tanjore, and it has lots of ancient sculptures. It is officially known as Rajaraja Chola Art Gallery, or locally known as Tanjavur Kalai Kudam, where Kalai means art and Kudam is gallery. You have bronze sculptures which ranges from 9th century AD to 19th century AD. And you have coins which is dating back to 300 BCs are exhibited here. Some very unique deities and saints can be seen. And this is the idol of Sharfoji Raja II, and this is the idol of Rajaraja Cholan. And you have their clothing, ornaments, and even hairdo techniques which is carved with these statues. So there is one skeleton of 92 feet whale that was washed away in the shores of Tranquebar in 1955. It is being housed here. And you can see how it is housed, and I'll be talking about the elements of architecture and how it has to be dealt with in my future slides. So please remember this slide and how this whale, 92 feet whale, has been placed here. And there is a Darbar Hall which has lots of intricate paintings of Ramayana and Mahabharata, which is actually painted there. Very colorful, very eye-catching Darbar Hall. Ornamented paintings and statues are there. And the highlight of the art gallery is the collections of ancient bronze statues. And this belongs to, all these idols belongs to Chola period, Vijayanagara period, and later periods are also found here. This section is comparatively interesting section because of the paintings which are available there. And you can actually see that lots of paintings has been destroyed also. Few centuries ago, it was this palace was covered with rich paintings, and now due to lack of preservation, we have lost many paintings and many stone sculptures. The Maratha Darbar Hall had stripes of octagonal columns. You can see the octagonal columns here. It is painted so that the octagon is actually seen, and portraits of several Maratha rulers, including Sarfoji Raja, in this hall. It actually has 2 courtyards. The smaller one has wooden roof and adjoining garden, and the larger courtyard has a colorful painting and stucco sculptures from Nayaks and Marathas all over the walls and the ceilings. Now we move on to the bell tower of Royal Palace Museum. This bell tower is kept for announcing time by going and blowing of conch shells. It is situated little north of this particular site, and you have also Madana Gopala Visala Mandapam, which is used for discussion with poets and intellectuals. Now this public knows this tower as a wide-heeled air pavilion, and you have 100 steps, inbuilt 100 steps to reach to the last floor. Provided the walls rose from the later stage in the ground floor. This is a later addition, and this is being removed and brought to the light by the Department of ASI. This is Sharjah Madi, which is imposing structure which attracts lots of attentions of the visitor. This ground floor was put up during the Nayak's time, and then the stucco paintings and images were found from Shefoji Raja's period, that is 1830s. And then you had this brick walls and decayed wooden rafters, which were replaced after this preservation, and ASI actually came into picture. We move on to Madurai. This is the breathtaking view of Gandhi Memorial Museum, Madurai. This particular museum is one among 5 Shankralaya of Gandhi in Madurai. It is beautifully renovated by the government, and this building was once a historical summer palace belonging to Rani Mangammal of Nayak's dynasty in 1670 AD. It is actually near Tamukkam. Tamukkam is nothing but an water area. It's like a lake where this particular building was used as a summer palace for the queen. You have a Gandhi Kudil over there in the site, which is authentically preserved. And this building houses Gandhi Memorial Museum, and in 1955, the palace was gifted over to Tamilnadu state government with 13 acres of land to All India Samarth Nidhi, and for the purpose of housing Gandhi Memorial Museum. The museum was inaugurated by Jawaharlal Nehru on 15th April 1959. So this origin of the museum dates back to 1948. Immediately after Mahatma Gandhi's assassination, because the slow process of collecting and preserving his personal relics, manuscripts, books, journals, documents, photographs, and audio-visual material. And this museum is on life, philosophy, and based on works of life and philosophy of Gandhiji. Later work was shifted to Delhi in early 1501, and then again it was brought back in the mid of 57. So this Gandhi Memorial Museum not only boasts the rich collection but also present alluring architecture. So this has an hut which is named Gandhi Kudil, which I showed you in the first slide, and it is located slightly south to the main building. And it is a replica of original hut of Mahatma Gandhi in Shembaganur. The ground floor of the building has a section of khadi and the village industries, where one can see various village industries which were revived by Mahatma Gandhi. On the northern side of the building, there is a library with more than 20,000 volumes. Here one can find 270,000 letters of Mahatma Gandhi and many reels of his microfilms. There is an open-air theatre as well, and this is situated on the south of the main block. And we have lots of cultural programs, public meetings, shows, which is organized and which can accommodate nearly 8,000 people. To the north of the building, you have a newly created house which is having a library. So this particular museum has 3 prominent sections. One, India Fights for Freedom, where you have lots of information on freedom fights of India, and then a visual biography of Mahatma Gandhi. And the third has the relics and replicas along with the gallery of Mahatma Gandhi. So in your India Fights for Freedom, you can see 265 illustrations and 30 panels showcasing different stages of freedom movement. And in your visual biography of Mahatma Gandhi, this section has 124 photos of Mahatma Gandhi, starting from his childhood to the last stages of his life. It also has various manuscripts, paintings, and sculptures related to Mahatma Gandhi. And you have lots of quotations, footsteps, and letters written by him. And the main piece or main highlight of this particular museum is a section where a letter written by Mahatma Gandhi to Adolf Hitler is addressed, where Hitler is addressed as a dear friend. And there is a congratulatory letter by Mahatma Gandhi to Subramanya Bharati, who's a great poet of Tamil and a freedom fighter on his own. So lots of 100 artifacts are also being preserved here, including the blood-stained cloth, which was on him on the day of assassination, and his spectacles, his pen, and replica of his original cloth also have been preserved carefully in the glass box. Other than that, you have 40 selected paintings and sketches, and you have 23 models of spinning wheels of traditional portable versions. That is that petty chakra, and then you have ambar chakras, and then you have models of Gandhiji's cottages, which is found in Phoenix settlement of South Africa, Satyagraha Ashramam at Sabarmati, and Shevagram Ashram near Varda. Now we move on to Kodaikanal from Madurai, where we have to see this Shembaganur Museum of Natural History. It's very lesser known, but it is very impressive museum in Kodaikanal. It is 123-year-old museum, and it boasts incredible taxidermy of over 500 species of insects, birds, and animals for tourists to explore. So you can see how this museum is looking, and you have this lots of flora and fauna, and it has been categorized very neatly. And there is an herbarium where you have almost 2,500 varieties of plants along with a vast garden. There are 300 species of trees and flower plants, and an orchidorium which has varieties of butterflies, snakes, mammals, and moths. So this is that orchidorium, and you can see this exhibits. Again, please have a look of this roof, which I will be talking in the future slides. Other highlights of this wonderful place is you have a growth of human baby inside a worm, alongside the archaeological treasure and collection of coins. And you have Palia tribes over there who waits for the tourist, and they explain their historical beauty there. And yes, next we move on to Coimbatore. We first look onto this gas forest museum, which was actually at the end of 19th century, was tried. An aborted attempt was made by J.A. Gamble, the conservator of forest of Madras Presidency. He tried to establish the forest of museum in this province. A few years later, Gamble's successor successfully inaugurated this particular museum in 1902. It was opened to the public in 1902 by then Governor of Madras. It is renamed after gas. This is expanded in 1905 and 1915 also, and in 1912 Madras Forestry College, currently this Tamilnadu Forest Academy, has established a museum which trains the foresters there. And this is a natural history museum which has this is the first institution in India to house the exhibits of the forestry. Apart from that, you have lots of wildlife exhibits, and you have arms used in the olden days, wood crafts, huge collections of insects and cultural artifacts. And there are lots of stuffed animals and birds and reptiles. So some are actually displayed here. So you can actually, as you enter, you can actually see an 1,000 kg stuffed gaur Indian bison, which is from Bilgiri Hills. And then this was actually gifted by Wadayar King of Mysore. And there are also large leopard, which actually frightens you. And the highlight is there is an elephant fetus which is preserved, which is 14 months old elephant fetus. And you have a niche forestry museum and gas forest museum, which attracts over 25,000 visitors annually, including students, tourists, and specialists who wants to make lots of research in this area. Now we move on towards GD Car Museum. hopefully I have to introduce G.T. Naidu to you. He is an eminent industrialist, philanthropist of Coimbatore, South India. He had a great passion of automobile. This is G.T. Naidu's picture, and this is G.T. Naidu who's explaining this particular car to his fellow mates. He had visited lots of countries during his lifetime, and he was fascinated by the workmanship and engineering capabilities of Germany. So he was specifically an admiration for the Rolls-Royce car, and which he visited in a factory in United Kingdom. In late 1960s, he has stripped off, you can see, he has stripped off the original body of beautiful Rolls-Royce car, and he had kept it there for explanation purpose to his student. And what he has told about this is, it was difficult for him to bend down each time to explain to the students. Now, just because this Rolls-Royce car is stripped, this whole mechanism can be clearly seen from the top. That was the ideology behind it. And this is G.T. Naidu's son, G.T. Gopal, who has continued his father's hobby, not just by adding the collections, but also by maintaining most of the cars in motorable condition. And he initiated the setup of the car museum, and this was actually opened in 27th April 2015 for the general public. The main objective of the museum is that students, general public who see these cars should also learn about the technology behind it, and as a person he is responsible for such innovations either in design, engineering and workmanship, etc. And the museum tries to give as much as information as is necessary to highlight the men behind the marvels. You can see lots and lots of old cars. Those people who are really interested in this vintage cars actually can go there, and it is well lit and very beautifully maintained museum. It starts from 18th century's cars, and you have lots of stories to tell behind each car, which is actually given in the columns, and then the photographs which is exhibited behind the cars. So this is cars on display, starting from the first one to the latest ones are also available. Till the nano cars are also available. So you can see different models of cars over here. These are some of the cars which are there on the display. Okay, now I would like to speak something on museum architecture, because we have seen several museums now. Till now, whatever museums we have seen, except for this GD museum, which we saw later in Coimbatore, and then this Dakshinachitra museum, all other museums were not built for the purpose of the museum. It was definitely a general public place, like probably a temple or a palace or an old British building or an Indo-Saracenic building, which is being transferred as museum. There is no evidence that the earlier buildings were solely desired to serve the purpose of the museum. Mostly, it was in palaces, temples, and public buildings. It is dark, gloomy, palatial, ornamental interiors, which themselves were the symbol of culture rather than the center of culture. So the buildings itself was a symbol of culture, but was it serving the purpose of the exhibits which were actually kept there? If you ask me so, I will say no, because you saw this palace which was actually transferred into a museum which holds this 92 feet Vale in Tanjore. It was very cramped area where they did not find this 92 feet space to keep that particular whale's skeleton. So they have identified one space, and they have crampedly kept that particular whale's skeleton. One cannot even come across or go around and see what is actually there in that particular exhibit. It was because it is being housed in the existing buildings, which were not designed for the purpose. Today, I hope again we have got into the trend of changing, and more museums are being constructed for the buildings, and it has to impart the education for providing facilities for the general public. So, first thing which we have to see is the site. Very carefully selected site has to be chosen. The first consideration should be the building for the present requirement with provisions of future expansion. There has to be lots of space for future expansion, because you will not know at what time, what kind of exhibits will be displayed and whether we have space for that. It should be easily accessible and it should not be far away from the town centers. The site has to have a park or a garden. It will be very ideal because it gives a good atmosphere and natural setting. The building should have enough open space around it. It should have to give a good amount of natural light and ventilation. And when it comes to general planning, there is nothing as an ideal plan for museum building, because it depends on the type of museum which you are going to design for. Every collection will have its own conditions. So each and every gallery or each and every section has to be designed in such a way based on the requirements of the exhibit, the purpose of the exhibit, and the problems which will be faced by the exhibits. So the museum authorities and the architect have to work in close cooperation to make this building successful. Now let's talk about the general planning. I hope people who are involved in museums, or who has to take care of the museums, also has to know about this. That is why I'm talking about this over here. This planning has to have future specific requirements, and this gallery has to be planned for if it is going to be exhibited with miniature jewelry or small branches, which will not be usable for large sculpture or large objects. So eventually the height of the building will be lesser over there, and even a picture gallery cannot be designed in such a way which will serve equally well for the exhibitions of the old paintings or the modern one, because the lighting of the picture gallery has to differ from the old paintings to the modern paintings. Yes, architecture means building beautifully, but this building has to go functional, and it has to go planned for the convenience of the users also. So beauty and utility has to go in hand, so that the purpose of the building will serve, and that becomes a beautiful architecture. Let's talk about the functional areas of museum architecture. There are two functional areas. One is a public area and the other one is a service area. Public area includes lots of galleries, auditoriums for meetings, lecture halls, and then film shows, libraries. All these are public areas. Whereas these service areas are offices of administration for technical staff, storerooms, workshops, computer rooms, air conditioning plants, and your CCTV areas, electrical plants. All these have to be coming under service area. In addition to this, you have to provide clock rooms and public and staff separately, water rooms, mother rooms, and then you have to have drinking water facility everywhere, and there has to be well-lit corridors and staircases for the circulation. And when you are planning a gallery, what type of collection and what kind of lights has to be needed for that gallery has to be taken in care. The size of the room, the height of the ceiling has to be determined based on the nature of the object. For example, if I'm going to keep a wooden work of Ratha, which are a huge sculpture, or the skeleton of an elephant or a whale, then I have to go for a height of 14 feet to 20 feet at least. Whereas if I'm going to design a gallery which is going to have bronze coins, jewelries, and which is going to be displayed in the showcases and miniature paintings, they do not need such high galleries. So you have to divide it into sections and see what you are going to design. Rooms lit by indirect artificial lights are more suitable for paintings and textiles rather than the sun-lit gallery, which is very strong throughout the year in India. Walls, how the walls has to be treated. The treatment of the walls makes a lots of difference to the gallery. There has to be uncluttered wall space. which is most usable in the gallery. There are lots of foreign examples, abroad examples where we can come across. There will be no interior walls. This partitions or these columns or the exhibit itself will make the pathway for you so that you can easily go on an uncluttered wall space. The windows, if you are providing windows, the windows has to be above 8 feet height from the floor level. So the wall space below is free for the exhibition purpose. Walls also act as background for freestanding exhibits. So you have to keep it paint with plastic emulsion paint or equivalent paints, which is easily washable and can be kept clean. It is much better to go on to the wooden paneling, which is painted to the wall color, so that it is easy to change the exhibits without spoiling the walls. The color of the wall should be lighter than the floor so that it can reflect light. When it comes to floor, the choice of the flooring for the galleries and corridors and halls of museums is a matter of importance. Floor should be easy to keep clean and it should be easily washable. It should not absorb any dirt or dust. It should not be slippery. And the color of the floor should be darker than the walls so that it may not reflect light on the exhibits which are lined on the walls or the showcases. Kota stone or marble terrazzo floors are most practical flooring for Indian conditions. Avoid white marbles. And then these do not absorb, these Kota stones and marble terrazzo do not absorb dirt and are hard wearing and easy to keep clean. When I'm talking about this floors, I have to actually specify that there is a 1,000-pillared hall in Meenakshi Temple, Madurai, which is actually taken and then without any thought process, the floors has been changed to granite. Shining granite has been used. It was before it was normal stone flooring. They should have protected that stone flooring as it is from the Pandya period. They should have actually, because it is not a museum, it is an 1,000-halled pillared hall, which is a part of the temple complex. Now it has a certain stone sculptures and bronze sculptures, and it is being used as a small museum. We should have actually maintained that, but we have lost that particular flooring, and now that has been covered with granite flooring, and so some way or the other we have lost that the beauty of that hall, I feel. And when we talk about museums, obviously we have to talk about the museums of the future. The future of the museum is reaching way beyond their walls. Hopefully we have understood that in our this pandemic period itself, because successful museums are creating relationships with the visitors, and then they extend the before and after the visit. We have to talk about the future trends. We mostly talk about emerging technology alone when we talk about future trends. But we have to see technology and built environments as hand in hand, because both cannot be viewed as separate worlds. Because nowadays, museums or zoos or even schools, colleges have come in where this technology has been taking a very big leap. A forward-thinking process has to be there when it comes to built environment, which is going to affect our affect or define our experience. So we can actually see what's now, what's next, and then we have to actually include lots of things. It has to be super interactive, and there has to be lots of 3D kind of thing or VR technology which has to be used. Now, we have a lot of museums and online content which contribute to the wider aims of the museum. There are lots of improvements which is happening in visual reality for the past few months, which we have not even thought of. Even school trips are taken where children are wearing that VR equipment in their classroom itself, and then they can sit and have their own virtual tour from the classroom itself. Even that has been done in abroad countries, which hopefully will be soon done in our land also. And we have to feel like we are walking around the real imagined museum in real time. in Tamil Nadu, we have come across this in Tamil Nadu and Kerala also. I hope we have come across this VR technology very well used by the teachers when they are when they are explaining botany and zoology classes. That has been exhibited even in this pandemic. So we have a panel where this students can actually scan that particular QR code, and in that mobile or in your laptop or in your iPad, you can actually see the animals walking across the forest, all those things. Even the main Mandalur Zoo of Chennai have tried all those things, and it has come out very well. So I like to tell that these are my references which I have taken. And this is where we come to the end of the session. And if you have any queries in the future, you can mail me or you can WhatsApp me in this number. Thank you. Sir?
Yes, thank you, thank you. And I'm very sorry. At the moment, my connection was cut.
No issue.
बहुत ही अच्छा. यस, थैंक यू. ये आपने शुरुआत जो की म्यूजियम्स का जो मकसद होना चाहिए कि इंट्रोडियम वो क्या होना चाहिए, किस तरह से होने चाहिए, उसकी ये किस लिए है, यानी संग्रहालयों का मकसद क्या है, वहां से अपने शुरुआत करते हुए गवर्नमेंट म्यूजियम चेन्नई से जो car museum bataya, and then you talk about the museums architecture and then also the museums of the future. भविष्य के संग्रहालयों की क्या आवश्यकता है और हमें किस तरह से संग्रहालय डिजाइन करने चाहिए. As an architect, you gave this information so beautifully. You can stop presenting. You can click on the stop presenting on your screen. Stop presenting. You just stop presenting. Click. हाँ, yes, okay, thank you. सो ये एक बहुत ही अच्छा जर्नी रहा. और एज पर द एक प्रोफेसर के हिसाब से हम कैसे संग्रहालय को सोचते हैं, अगर एक कोई कलेक्शन करने वाला है तो वो संग्रहालय को किस तरफ से देखता है, और कोई एक विजिटर है तो वो संग्रहालय को कैसे देखता है, वैसे एक आर्किटेक्ट होने के नाते संग्रहालय को कैसे देखा जाता है, ये भी हमें आज अच्छी तरह से पता चला. सो थैंक यू, थैंक्स अ लॉट अगेन, एंड आई रिक्वेस्ट to all the participants, if there are any questions, please ask. Here in chat box few questions are there. उज्जवल मोहड़े सर ने यहाँ पर ये पूछा है, where is car museum situated, in Coimbatore?
Yes, sir, it is in Coimbatore. It is in the main town of Coimbatore itself.
Okay, okay, thank you. इसके is there any more questions? और किसी को कुछ सवाल है? अगर है तो आप अपना हाथ उठा सकते हैं. एंड इफ यू हैव एनी क्वेश्चंस. मेरे लिए ही एक सवाल है, क्या मैं पूछ सकता हूं विथ योर काइंड परमिशन?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
What is the condition there in the rather than this Egmont में ओनली मेंटेनेंस के बारे में बात कर रहा हूँ. मेंटेनेंस और ये प्रॉपर है, क्योंकि मैंने ज्यादा संग्रहालयों को विजिट नहीं किया. आई वाज स्टे करबापा कैंपस एंड विजिटेड इन मदुरई एंड चेन्नई ओनली, बट नॉट अदर म्यूजियम्स. तो वहां पर मेंटेनेंस और ये सिचुएशन कैसा, इज इट प्रॉपर?
Sir, in Chennai, this Chennai museum, this old Chennai museum is actually maintained well. There are few destructions which have happened, which is not conserved properly with respect to whatever is authentic. But some way or the other, they have conserved it, and the preservation has happened so well. But when you actually see Tiruchirappalli or this Velur district museums, I will not be happy to say that they are maintained properly, because those are given very less importance, because that becomes a district library, this district museums which are not actually well maintained. Those are also actually palaces of kings and queens only, whether it is in Tiruchirappalli or whether it is in Velur. Velur, the museum is actually situated inside the fort. So it's this very small museum, and people do not visit those museums often because the exhibits are not changed, or nothing has changed even after 10 years of time. If I visit Tiruchirappalli Museum today, and if I had visited Tiruchirappalli Museum 10 years ago, nothing has changed. Even the exhibits have not changed. So that is where we have to actually focus on when it comes to the future of the museum. If I actually have to say, GT Naidu's car museum and Dakshinachitra museum is going very well in Tamil Nadu because they have lots of events, lots of competitions, even lots of pictures are being picturized there, and they exhibit that particular picture over there. They have panel discussion. They have come on to this new typology of stand-up comedies happening there. So that way or the around, people enjoy that particular environment of the museum instead of actually seeing the exhibits and coming back.
Thank you, thank you, thanks a lot. I heard a lot about the Dakshinachitra Museum, and I want to go, so I will come there. And another one question is there: is there any educational institutes, museums, colleges, or in universities?
To my knowledge, it is not there, sir. This Gas Forest Museum, Coimbatore, is linked with the Forest Department Institute of Madras University. So that is an institute museum, but that is coming under Forest Department.
थैंक यू, थैंक्स अ लॉट अगेन. और यहाँ पर किसी के कुछ सवाल नहीं है, किसी ने किसी का हाथ ऊपर नहीं है. ओके, सो इसका मतलब है कि आपने जो बताया वो ठीक तरह से सभी के समझ में आया. यहाँ पर विक्रम भारद्वाज जी ने एक लिखा है, डिड फ्रेंच कंस्ट्रक्टेड एनी स्पेसिफिक म्यूजियम इन पांडिचेरी?
I don't have a great idea about Pondicherry's museum. I'm just exploring that. To my knowledge, I don't think that there is a French town. There is a white town which is there in Pondicherry, but I have not heard about a museum which is constructed by French. Probably there might be some building which has been transferred into a museum, and all those French and Danish products and artifacts are kept. But I don't know. Maybe let me see, and then maybe I can answer the query if they are actually.
That institute is called as the French Institute Pondicherry, and where there is a great collection of manuscripts which are registered in World Memory Register also. And my friend Dr. Devi Singh is there. की तरह से उसे थोड़ा सा डेवलप किया गया है, but it was not we can say as a museum by French, but with the help of French government and government of India, that institution developed there nowadays. So thank you, thanks a lot again. And so with your kind permission, we can say here that there are a lot of beautiful museums. Actually, my aspect is that Tamil Nadu एक ऐसा स्टेट है जहाँ पर बहुत ब्यूटीफुल टेम्पल्स है, और महाराष्ट्र के कुछ जैन टेम्पल्स में, जैसे हमारे यहाँ सांगली डिस्ट्रिक्ट में कुंभोज नाम का एक गांव है, वहां पर जैन टेम्पल्स में म्यूजियम्स है, और भी कुछ कई सारे एग्जांपल है. सो लाइक दैट इन तमिलनाडु में भी कुछ टेम्पल्स के अपने कुछ म्यूजियम है क्या, ऐसा मैं पूछना चाहता हूँ. इज माय लास्ट क्वेश्चन.
Yes, I was talking about this Madurai Meenakshi's 1,000-pillared hall, which is actually transferred into a museum, and there are exhibits of that particular Pandya architecture, and the bronze images and coins are also being kept there. And hopefully, other than that, I have to see. I don't remember seeing any museum kind of things in Srirangam. But Madurai, yeah, it is there, sir, because I have visited. So it is a 1,000-pillared hall, which is a part of the temple complex, which is being used as a museum now. Thank you,
thanks a lot. Maybe there are some more museums, but जैसे हमारे यहाँ पे आंध्रा और तेलंगाना रीजन कर्नूल में पर्टिकुलर उधर हमारे रंगनाथ स्वामी टेम्पल वगैरह जैसा है कि जिनका अपना एक बहुत बढ़िया गोल्ड पेंटिंग्स का बहुत बड़ा म्यूजियम है। बट वो कलेक्शन के हिसाब से उन्होंने बहुत अच्छा रखा है, बट इट्स नॉट अलाउड टू एंट्री फॉर द कॉमन पब्लिक एंड एनीवन। अगर कोई या आईएएस ऑफिसर्स वगैरह है देन ओनली दे कैन एंटर देयर एंड दे कैन सी। इट्स रियली अ ब्यूटीफुल कलेक्शन। तो इस तरह से भी हो सकता है क्योंकि बड़े बड़े टेम्पल्स उनका अपना कलेक्शन होता है फ्रॉम एंसेंट मिडिवल पीरियड से उनके पास जो भी कुछ आर्टिफैक्ट्स है जो कलेक्शन है वो उनके यहाँ रखा होता है। बट जैसे हमने कहा कि वहाँ कॉमन पीपल्स को अलाउड नहीं होता है, इसलिए शायद वो सामने नहीं आता, ऐसा भी हो सकता है क्योंकि इतने बड़े हमारे अगर टेम्पल्स उस तरफ है तो उनका अपना उनके पास जरूर भी है। सो यहाँ कई सारे लोगों ने लिखा है, थैंक यू। ये सेशन बहुत अच्छा रहा और आपने बहुत अच्छी जानकारी दी। मैंने ही आपको ज्यादा तकलीफ दी इसलिए मैं क्षमा चाहता हूँ और आपने हमें बहुत
No
अच्छा
issues, sir.
मार्गदर्शन
Thank
किया।
you so much for the opportunity.
थैंक यू, थैंक्स अ लॉट।
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
थैंक यू मैडम।